by the way, because that's the decree of exile, but of God. But at least it won't be done in the name of God, in the name of the Torah, which they're doing. They're constantly claiming it's a Jewish state, and it's theirs, and that the Palestinian people are stealing it from them, and that they're anti-Semitic. All these things put aside, and then we'll talk about what you want about a little piece of land for the Jewish people who suffered. We won't want it, but for them we'll talk about it, but not here. Let's find the land someplace else. Yeah.
I don't know if this is a comment more than a question, but as a Muslim, you know, I've lived my life, and I think that there's been this undoubtedly obvious animosity, sometimes hatred between Muslims and Jews. And I lived in London for a while, and it always shocked me when I would see a gentleman like yourself coming down the London Underground. He would bristle up, and then I would bristle up. And I always asked myself, because I was young at that time, much younger than I am now, but I would always ask myself, why? You know, I don't know him, and he doesn't know me. And having sat here for however long I've been here and listening to you speak, and sitting next to this gentleman to my left, I feel compassion, I feel peace, I feel a sense of respect and an acknowledgement of you as a human being. And as you, as somebody who is entitled to your beliefs, entitled to your position, and ultimately entitled to have your dignity be given to you. And you know, I see all these other people, I know quite a lot of them, and we're all Muslim, and I think that, you know, it's a testament to that we can coexist. And the fact that you have, you know, clearly specified and delineated through history that we have coexisted, you know, basically what I'm rambling on to get to is I feel overwhelmed with sentiment, and I feel very troubled at the same time, because I understand that most people will not realize what you've explained to us, and most people do not realize the power of the Zionist movement and how it's basically undermining the stability and the potential peace of not just that region, but of a global population. So I wanted to pass it back to you and ask, do you think that there's a rainbow that will come out of this dark cloud? Because it's very dire to me.
Well, we believe that God is the most merciful, the compassionate, the ruler of the world, and He is. And He's feeling all our suffering more than we can feel ourselves our suffering. So He will bring an end. That's why I say, but we have to pray that it should be speedily peaceful without any more suffering. And they just mentioned we always have to be apologetic for our position, because that's what Zionism's ploy is, to be on the attack, on the offensive. But it shouldn't be. They should be apologetic for their position by Hitler, which does. It's unbelievable things that I could show. There's books, written facts about Hitler, what they've worked together with the Nazis. Eichmann, his Life magazine, wrote about, interviewed him. He said, and spoke about it. They worked together. And plenty facts. They thwarted all Hungarian Jews were almost saved by Rabbi Weiss. They made a deal with Eichmann. We have the facts. There's 51 documents from Lenny Brenner. We have books of that. Our rabbis, great. They dealt with Eichmann to save the Jews, and the Zionists thwarted the efforts of saving Jews. It's a whole long story. No, it's not the time. And yet we're vilified. The Turei Karta, the haters of Jews, they're marching with the Palestinian people. How dare they, when their hands are covered in blood of the Jews throughout history? And you look at their cemeteries. Again, look at the cemeteries of the Israeli army. Thousands of people died. Because they were in the Turei Karta? No, because they were supporting an ideology. How many people can you point out, one person who died because they supported our position, and that because we go to the Palestinian and the Muslim leadership and the President Ahmadinejad, we're not getting into this politics, we're apolitical. We have no idea if it's Khatami or Ahmadinejad. We met with them all, we're friendly with them all, or Abbas, or we meet with them all. You can ask them, we're friendly with them, because we're not political. We're just constantly saying the root issue is that they're right. We're not going in condoning violence or the approach out, but in the underlying issue and the cause of the strife, bloodshed, and this endless, what's happening, and who knows whatever repercussions in the other lands, is because there is this agitator that's been added to to the humanity which is called Zionism, if you remove it, not the people, not killing people, removing this issue, then we can coexist, and we will be able to coexist. So we shouldn't be apologetic. We should be standing out there and telling these people, you have no, you have chutzpah, you have audacity, you have no right to be speaking what you're saying, and you open your minds, you will cause a bloodshed. The sooner this ends, the sooner there will be an end of bloodshed. Yeah.
I have one question. That, as you have said that you guys are welcome in the Muslim countries, so are you guys are similarly welcome in the state of Israel?
In where?
In Israel, are you guys are welcome over there? You can go there.
In Israel?
Yeah.
As mentioned, me personally is not the issue, but there is, thank God, a very large community that was living in Palestine, and that we don't have family planning, thank God, we grow in leaps and bounds. We have hundreds of thousands of Jews, thank God. And I'll tell you another thing, a very interesting point. Almost entirely the religious Jewish community is anti-Zionist, was anti-Zionist. When the creation of the state, people started dying from hunger. The Zionists put a stranglehold on the Jewish community, and there was a break in the religious Jewish community. Some of them decided to join, it's called were part of the Akudah. Akudah broke away from Eid al-Khareis and the Turei character. They broke away, and they decided to have representation. Not they became Zionists, they decided they're going to have representation in the government, to get funding from the government. Our rabbi said, one, you get funding from somebody, you'll be blinded to their evil. Secondly, you cannot sit with an evil entity. It's totally forbidden. These people from Yakudah said, we're living here. At the end of the day, the de facto ruler of the land is the Zionists. We have to have representation. And they went their way. Still in all, till today, the majority of religious Jews do not send their children to the army, and it's a very strong point of contention. It's a fact. They're trying to create another type of military service in this, but till today, they didn't serve in the army, a vast majority. Secondly, they don't fly Israeli flags on the buildings, and they don't march in the Israeli day parades, because they don't, and even in New York, when they have on Fifth Avenue, you will find it's all even marginally religious, but the religious who dress very religious, you'll find none of them go, and there's a reason for it, because nobody supports it. They may say we have no choice, but they don't support the state of Israel in its essence. They're getting corrupted. They're being led by politicians, unfortunately. And so, and so you even have the Shas party, which is extremely right, but the Shas party officially does not condone the existence of the state, and all their followers will never celebrate the state of Israel. They'll celebrate with me the day the state of Israel ends, and that it should happen without any suffering, without any bloodshed. They'll celebrate it because they don't want the state. They simply have to have representation, and they're being led by the nose by these politicians, by the Shas, and so forth. But the people, in essence, universally don't. And there's many Jews who, by the way, stand in opposition, unfortunately, non-religious, who don't know the religion because they've been taught compassion and human rights. We're not coming, we say godly, human rights is godliness. That's a godly requirement. And we're coming from the Torah view. So we have many people there who, and we have many of my constituents and live there, communities, school systems and everything, that live there. Many of our people there, they don't begin to recognize the state of Israel. They're invisibles. They don't register. Some of them do register because they have no choice, or else they can't travel out of the country. But they're existing there. Large communities there and around the world.
You were saying that religious Jews around the world and in Jerusalem don't support the state. I lived in Israel.
You just made it slightly different than I said. There are many Jews. Okay. There are Jews who do support the state who are religious. Yeah.
But up until today, I lived in Israel for 8 years.
Right.
And I grew up there, and I've been to Jerusalem many times. And I have yet to come across anyone that's anti-Israel in a sense that says that Israel should not be allowed to exist. I've come across people that have said that the way Israel is approaching the issue is wrong, that the violence is wrong, but I've yet to come across someone that, religious or otherwise.
Well, all I can do is, first of all, I can show you here pictures of tens of thousands of Jews with signs, and I can give you address. You can go there. You can meet the communities, synagogues, flourishing communities, everything you want. They're there. You didn't meet them. I can't help you. I don't think you met any Jew in Brooklyn. Maybe in our areas. I never saw you coming by my house either. That doesn't mean that you didn't come by my house. I mean, it's there. There's communities that are flourishing, that were there. Thank God the Zionists didn't slaughter them. So they're still there.
But what I was getting at is that I know that there are a lot of people, yourself included, that are against Israel, and there are a lot of people against any issue. I mean, I doubt you can name an issue that there aren't huge amounts of people against. But one of the main points that I've heard against Israel, and I believe you touched on it, is that the Zionists basically came in and took the land from the Palestinian Arab people. But the land was not extensively inhabited. I'm not saying there was no one there. There were definitely people there. But when Israel was created, they were allowed to stay. And I've read the manual, I've read the doctrines, and the Arabs are allowed to stay. They have religious freedom, they have civil freedom. They're allowed to be there and exist and practice what they want. But at the same time, the moment Israel was created, all the Jews from the neighboring nations were exiled. And none of the Palestinians that were in Palestine, that's now Israel, were accepted by other nations. They were just kind of thrown around and nobody really wanted them. And that's after...
You're throwing together so many different issues. You're giving a whole, and each issue, it really has not in even one iota changed what we've talked about. Whether other nations are very hospitable and they take in the Palestinian people, or they don't take in, it's neither here nor there. It's just again throwing in confusion, like the Zionists keep on saying, why don't they take in the Palestinian people? What does that have to do with it? That rich guy who owned the house, who owns the mansion, his neighbor doesn't want to take him in even though he has 60 bedrooms, is neither here nor there to the fact that his house was stolen. And when you're talking about when the Jewish people came over there, and it was whether the guy who had the mansion had 60 acres around his house that was empty, as neither here nor there, or if it was totally a built-up house. All these issues are neither here nor there. The fact is they've come, Zionism has come into a land and said, we are the rulers, it's our land, it's the Jewish state. And I think we can continue this conversation of, like I say, it's not relevant to this issue that we're talking about. But anyways, I think it's already almost 7:30, I think, so pretty much, yeah.
I just wanted to thank our distinguished guests. Association, I just want to say thank you for taking the time and shedding light on this kind of sensitive matter. And I just want to encourage everyone, if you want to kind of take a look in some more detail in terms of the actual topic, this shouldn't be the only opportunity to, get some insight on this topic where you can look into it. And we also have the Palestine Awareness Wall, which is up in the marketplace if you want to take any more information there. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you all.
If you have any questions, I'm not sure if Rabbi Weiss has time.